Alright, the Raptor is getting new plugs today. The vehicle is at about 15,000 miles, and for tuned vehicles, you usually want to change the plugs between 15 and 20,000 miles. I also took the opportunity while I was doing this to go ahead and swap out for plugs which were one step colder. Looked at a few different options, including NGK, and decided to go ahead and purchase the Ford Performance plugs, which were one step colder. They actually just had a set that they sold like that. I purchased these from More Power Tuning, or MPT. That is not the tune that I have, but just looking through prices and shipping, etc., it came out to be the best option for me. So that's who I bought it from. So the plugs come in this pack of 6. Kind of poor packaging, but that's how they come from the factory. They are pre-gapped. Normally I would have checked the gap myself because I don't really trust the pre-gapping, but my gapping tool ended up covered in red Loctite somehow, so I wasn't able to use it. You really don't need too many tools to actually get this done. You're going to need a 10mm socket, which we'll use to remove the engine cover, and then you'll need a 8mm socket for the coils and a 5/8 socket for the spark plugs. Standard spark plug size, nothing special there, no thin walls or anything like that required. I do recommend that you use an actual spark plug socket though, because those usually have a magnet on the inside, which helps you loosen and then pull the plug right out. I didn't have that, so I ended up just using a magnet on a stick to actually get that done. But it's a lot more useful if you, or it's a lot more helpful if you use a spark plug dedicated 5/8 socket. Once you remove the nuts that hold on the engine cover, you can just pull it right out. I was a little surprised to see that the entire thing is made of foam. I thought the cover would at least be plastic, maybe with some insulation, but the whole thing is just foam, which is pretty cool. And it keeps out all the noise, obviously, from your engine, keeps it from droning into the cab. As I said before, it's pretty basic. Now that you've removed the engine cover, all you've got to do is pull out the coil pack, and once you get the actual coil out using the 8mm socket, you can leave it connected to the wire, or you can pull the wire off. I like to pull those things all the way out. Normally I'll number them based on the cylinder also, but I'm going to go ahead and pull them out one at a time while I'm doing this, because I took my time, and obviously I ended up scoping each of the cylinders just to see what's going on in there and make sure there's nothing crazy happening. You can buy these little bore scopes really cheap on Amazon. I bought this several years back because I had to do some hunting for an issue on another vehicle. But they're very useful. I had previously scoped out some cylinders on my X5M, and I just wanted to see what these look like, see if there were any huge issues. The first picture that I have here is simply looking at the spark plug before I even pulled it out, just to see if there was any oil pooling at the bottom. I didn't do this for the rest of the cylinders, just this first one, to see what it looked like. Here's your standard 5/8 socket. I used a couple different extensions and a swivel joint to get things going on this. They're all not necessary. but the swivel joint will definitely help you depending on the different lengths of your extensions and what you're using to pull this out. The first plug that I pulled out did actually have quite a bit of oil on it, on the threads, but it wasn't terrible, and there weren't really any other issues with the other cylinders. But here you'll see the comparison, new versus old. Again, the plug wasn't in terrible condition. Just wanted to make sure that everything was good to go. Alright, so this is a cut to me scoping the first cylinder. Through the magic of editing, I got it in right away, but it actually took me several tries to get that scope straight in there. You will see some carbon buildup on the cylinder, but it's not terrible. It doesn't look bad at all, and you can tell that the engine is fairly new. Plus, the Raptor is supposed to have the mix of the port and direct injection, which I'm sure helps clean off a lot of nastiness before it gets in the engine. You'll notice that I dropped the plug straight in there. I don't use any sort of anti-seize because it's going to change the torque required on the plug itself, and the torque that you're going to need is 133 inch-pounds. So make sure that you have a torque wrench that will allow you to use inch-pounds that'll actually go down that low. If not, it should be about 11 foot-pounds. But with larger torque wrenches, you'll run into issues with it not clicking properly or not engaging, and you might over-torque it. Same issues that you'll have if you end up using that anti-seize on the plug threads. The only reason why you would need those is on an older vehicle where you will run into dissimilar metal problems, and plugs will actually seize into the engine. But that's no longer an issue with any of these new vehicles. Once you've done the first couple of spark plugs, it's really easy to get into a rhythm. You know exactly what to do next, and nothing really changes aside from some spacing issues that you may have on either side of the engine. So you just gotta knock it out and keep going. wasn't until this last cylinder that I was actually able to realize that I didn't have the light turned up all the way on the scope. And I was able to get a really good picture of the piston head and see exactly what's going on inside of that cylinder. So I decided to record that just to make sure that you guys were able to see a better close-up of what's going on. There's really nothing else to it. Once you torque down the last spark plug, just got to put everything back together the way it was. Make sure that all of your wires are reconnected if you did end up disconnecting the coils. And then go ahead and throw the engine cover back on, screw it back in, and make sure everything's tightened down before starting your vehicle up. If you have a scanner, or if you happen to have a tuner that allows you to log, you should be able to double check and make sure that there aren't any engine codes and there aren't any problems with the change. If you get any codes that show that you're misfiring on one of your cylinders, I would just pull the engine cover back off, double check all your wiring, and make sure that the coil is pushed down all the way on top of the spark plug, because you could have some issues with connection. If you did add dielectric grease to your boots, make sure that none of that dielectric grease got onto the actual plug itself, because that's mainly meant to just prevent the boot from sticking on there. But that's it. Hopefully this helped somebody with their spark plug change, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks.